All right, we're live. Adam, thanks for being here, man. Thank you very much for accepting the invite. How you doing?
Doing well, man. Thanks for having me on.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. So we were talking right before we started about how we got past the busy period in the facility. You work at BioSport. Is it BioSport or BioSports?
BioSport Athletics.
Okay, BioSport Athletic. I always say BioSports, but BioSport Athletics near Cleveland, right in Ohio.
Yeah, it's in Cleveland on the west side of the city.
Okay, sweet. So you've been there for how long have you been there?
We'll be going on 2 years here in April, so pretty
Nice.
decent time now.
Nice, yes, sir. You're starting to get pretty habituated with the place. Tell me a little bit about your role there. What do you do, and things like that.
Yeah, so I'm in charge of everything strength conditioning related there. So I write all the programs for the guys. And then we also have level one memberships, and those are guys that don't get the custom program, but there's a session on the board every day.
Okay.
That's mainly like high school, middle school, a little bit younger guys. Majority of guys are on what's called level two membership, and that's where I write their custom program.
Okay.
So that's where the bulk of my time is spent writing the programs. And then whenever I actually go in, I just kind of make sure everything goes right. If anyone has questions, they come to me. I make sure everything looks good and just kind of guide the athletes as they continue through their journey of training and getting better.
Nice. And out of curiosity, do you guys have any like age limit on how young the guys can be, or how old the guys have to be when they come in for that level one
Um,
membership?
For level one, the youngest will go is 12, and it's more of like a case by case decision
Yeah.
because,
Okay.
as you know, some 12-year-olds could handle coming in, spending
Yeah.
40 minutes in the weight room and getting out. Some of them can't.
Yeah.
So I would say 12 is the youngest, mostly like 13 and up. And then majority of level one, I would say, is 13 to 15. And then level
Okay.
two is 15 to 18.
Yeah. Okay. Sweet. How about you tell us now a little bit about your baseball career and how that led you to that to sports performance and SNC.
Yeah, so I pitched at Mercyhurst University. I got there for the season in 2018 and then played all the way through 2021.
Hmm.
And while I was there, our freshman year, we had a strength coach, and he was awesome. Kind of really helped me learn what it is I'm supposed to be doing in the weight room. Because before that, I had zero guidance, and it didn't really go well. Had some bad experiences with training, some injuries that happened from trying to do everything myself. So
Hmm.
I get there, we have a strength coach. Freshman year goes really well. I end up being the team's closer, have the most appearances. We make it to the College World Series. We didn't win any games that year, but we made it all the way there, which was really cool. Then I come back for my sophomore year. The strength coach is gone because he was a GA that year who played the year before.
Oh yeah.
So he's gone, and we got a new strength coach as a university, but he wasn't the best. Like nobody really cared for his stuff, and the pitchers especially said like, we don't want to do this because we get the sheets of paper, and our lift was identical to women's tennis. And I get that like we're training similar qualities, whatever, but like put some effort into it. So we told the coach like, hey, we don't really like this, and he was like, okay, like you guys can outsource, like you can go with driveline, whatever, you can do it on your own. We have the old lifts from the previous strength coach. So at that time I started tinkering around with writing my own stuff,
Yeah.
and it went decent at first. Like it got better than what I was doing in high school because I had somewhat of an idea after having that strength coach.
Yeah.
And then junior year, I really started writing all my stuff, but that was also COVID. And that's also
Gotcha.
whenever I started writing for some of my teammates as well. So I started doing that for free, like 2019, 2020. And then by 2021, like that summer, that was whenever I finally started saying, like, okay, we're going to start charging guys and we're going to see where we can take this thing. And then after I finished up my undergrad there, I went to grad school at Cal U, which is in the bottom of Pennsylvania. So it's
Hmm.
California, Pennsylvania. And while I was there, I was a GA under the strength coaches. So I got to work in college athletics a little bit, see what that side of things is like, and kind of led me to decide that the private sector is where I think I'm going to be the best fit and most used for what I like to do.
Nice. All right. Well, so you feel like you're at your place in that sector at least so far.
Yeah, definitely. I just realized I didn't tell you anything about my baseball career. I just told you
I
about how
mean,
I got
no, no,
here.
but that was kind of my question. Like, how, tell us about your baseball career and how that led you to that. I mean, you can tell me more about your baseball career if you want. This is a conversation that we can have right now. How about you do
Yeah, I mean,
that?
we can.
Because I've seen you throw a lot right now recently. From what you've said, I think on social media is probably the best you've been on the mount, or at least in training. So tell me a little bit about that. Yeah.
Yeah, so I guess we'll go back to like high school. So in high school, I was about the same height I am now. So I'm 6'4".
Okay.
But
Sweet.
right now, I'm like 205 to 210 pounds on average. In high school, I was about 175. So definitely a little bit smaller, tall, skinny, like the classic high schooler build.
Yeah.
Very, very just sloppy mechanics. I was never really taught what I was trying to do on the mound. Like I was told different things from coaches, but what I ended up doing did not look that good. But because I was 6'4", long arms, I was able to get up to 86 in high school, which was enough for Mercier's to be like, all right, we'll give this guy a chance. I also have really good movement naturally. So like I'm a sinker ball kind of guy, and I've never tried to do it. It's always just been something that happens. And if I manipulate my grip a little bit, I can make it happen more. And that's kind of what I started playing around with in college. And then obviously you get to college, you gain some weight, get stronger. I went from like 84, 86 to 88, 90, touching 91 my freshman year. But then in college, that's kind of where I sat the whole time. My sophomore year, I got up to 93 in a bullpen. And if it was a like pro day environment or like a bullpen where we know we're going for velo, I could get it up a little bit. But in game, I would always be like 88, 90, maybe touching 91. And then once I finished playing after my senior year, I was in grad school and I had this thing going on with my hip throughout my senior year where it wasn't like crazy pain, but it was always there and I was aware of it, but I never really thought it was anything big. And I went to the doctor and they did a scan of it and they found out that my labrum was torn in my hip as well as I had impingement. So I had cam impingement, which just means the head of the femur and the acetabulum, it just doesn't fit right. So every time I would go into hip flexion and internal rotation, I would get this impingement, pinching sensation that just didn't feel right
In the back hip.
in the back hip, so on my right side. And that's pretty important in delivery. So I could never get into that position comfortably.
Mhm.
Then I got that surgery, got it fixed. So they shaved down the femur, fixed the labral tears, and I started throwing again like 3.5, 4 months out. And they told me it would be 6 months to a year before I was 100%. They said don't start throwing until 6 months, but I figured I'm young and I know what I'm doing on the recovery side. Like I used red light therapy, I took different supplements, I crushed a rehab and did extra on top of that. So like I recovered at a really good rate. I think it was like 4 months out. I decided to rip some pull downs and I pulled down 95. And then the next day, I still had a year left of eligibility because of COVID. So the next day, the Cal U coach was like, hey, man, I want you to throw a bullpen. Like we could really use you. It's like March at this time, too. So it's well into the season. So I was like, all right, like I didn't have a glove. I didn't have my glasses. So I was wearing like tennis shoes and I had a first baseman's mitt that they gave me. And I hopped on the bump and I was just dotting. And I haven't pitched. Like at that point, I was 5, maybe 7 months out, like from the last time I pitched. And I was just dotting. And then the last one, I was like, all right, we'll try a little bit here. 90 off the bump the day after pulling down 95. I was like, okay, like something's different now. And then fast forward from that, like that summer, I got up to 94. And then 94 was kind of my peak since 2022. And then just recently, a few weeks ago, I finally got up to 95. But I definitely think the hip was a big factor in that because I'm able to use my body how I want to now. And then, like I said in a post I made a few weeks ago about how I can throw harder now than when I was in college. Like, yes, I'm bigger, faster, stronger, but it's not always the case. Like, that helps me, but it's more about how I can move and use all those qualities that we build to actually get the output that I want.
Nice. Yeah, that's definitely an interesting story. But yeah, that's what happens when you finally start taking care of looking at the whole picture and stop avoiding some of the things that have been, you know, taking you, keeping you away from where you want to be. Which is sick that you're able to throw 95 in front of the kids that train your place, and it's something I've tried to take on myself too. So hopefully we get there
I mean,
soon.
it took me forever, man. I thought I was going to hit 95 and what was it,
Yeah.
2019, never I hit 93. I was like, oh, I'm 2 away. It's going to happen like next year. And then
Yeah.
fast forward 5 years later at the end of 2024, finally happens. Like
Yeah.
sometimes it just takes a while.
Yeah, exactly. Well, definitely we'll try to make it happen, but it's a grind for sure. And it's cool because it keeps you, at least myself, when I try to do that, like when I try to do some very challenging, keeps me kind of going. And I think it's good for the kids as well to see that and be like, okay, like there's some things we can learn and take away from our coach coming up and trying to do his best because he's been through everything we're going through right now and coming in with a little bit of experience that can definitely help them. So this is pretty cool. Let me take this to a different direction now. Let me talk. I mean, talk to us about your like general philosophy, if you have one, in terms of strength and conditioning or training in general. Um, are you a guy that believes in one thing works all the time? Are you a guy that has a set of things that you do all the time that you think work? Or are you more of a global? I think I already kind of know the answer, but are you more of a global problem solver? Like, hey, let's address whatever has to be addressed for the individual, and how do you go about that?
Yeah, so I would say, as far as my overall philosophy goes, to kind of get to that point, it's important to talk about like who had influence on me early on in my like just researching days and trying to learn about different ways
Hmm.
to program, different styles, everything like that. And early on, one of my good friends from high school that's still playing, he introduced me to Louis Simmons and Westside Barbell, which
Okay.
a lot of good comes from that, but obviously if you follow it to a T, a lot of bad can come from it as well. So like my junior year of actually senior year of college was never I really started like all in. I'm going to run the West Side program. So I ran it just like the book said. I was doing 10 by 2 banded box squat, 10 by 2 banded deadlift in the same lift, and crushing all the accessories. I got really, really strong, but it kind of ran me into the ground. I was like, okay, like obviously there's something here that makes sense, but it's not going to work for the baseball population exactly how he has it laid out. Like 4 days a week of that kind of just runs you into the ground really fast.
Yeah.
So using the West Side Barbell approach of like, okay, max effort, dynamic effort, those general philosophies, like, hey, on max effort days, we're going to be working on absolute strength and output. Dynamic effort days, we're working more on rate of force development, how fast we can move the bar. Whereas accessory work on both of those days, I'm not going to make accessories on a dynamic day like super fast or anything. Like we're still going to build strength no matter what the day is. It's just those terms just kind of help determine what the main movement is going to look like, whether it's going to be
Yeah.
fast with a VBT, whether it's going to be kind of slow and more of a strength stimulus.
Hmm.
So I got the general idea for that template from Westside. And then I think it was 3, 4 years ago, maybe now, I started following Grant Fowler. I'm not sure if you know Fowler
Yeah.
Fitness on
Yeah. I
Instagram,
do. Yeah.
but his approach to it was he kind of took the same idea of like where he labels in his programs max effort this, dynamic effort that, but he kind of tinkered it and made it his own. I thought that was really cool because coming from a guy that read the books, at first I was like, what is he doing? Like he's going against what Louis Simmons said dynamic effort is. Like you can't
Hmm.
do that. And then I realized like all our job really is interpreting what's out there and what's available and
Yeah.
putting it into the best product possible for the athlete.
Yeah.
So I would say like Louis Simmons and Westside for general ideas. And then Grant Fowler has a lot of good stuff. AJ out at Optimal Power Performance, he had a lot of good stuff and blogs that I read early on.
Okay.
So after reading all of that, I decided that the conjugate approach, where we're training multiple qualities and we're training with a little bit more variation than a standard program, is what I think is the best route.
Yeah.
And that's what I've been using with the athletes here. So as far as the variation goes, an example would be like for a lower body day, we're going to box squat with a normal bar. The next time we have a lower body day that's max effort, we're going to do some sort of a hinge pattern. So that can be a deadlift, an RDL, whatever. The next lower body day would be another squat pattern, but instead of using the same exact bar, the same exact box, maybe we'll change the box height. Maybe we'll use the giant camber bar or safety squat bar.
Hmm.
Maybe we'll put some bands on the bar just to change up that stimulus slightly, and one that keeps the athletes very engaged because it's just slightly different, but we're still building on the same patterns because you don't want to get too crazy with the variation because then it's hard to track any progress. But as long as you're hitting like a consistent squat, consistent hinge pattern, and just changing it up slightly, I've noticed that helps athletes be able to send it week in and week out without getting that burnout feeling.
Yeah.
And also, it keeps the engagement pretty high. And then for dynamic effort work, especially with lower body days, I just like to do the opposite of what the max effort is. So, like, say you hit heavy squat early on in the week, for your dynamic work, you're going to be doing a heavy, or not heavy, a speed hinge.
Yeah.
So, that could be like a banded RDL, banded deadlift, anything like that. But we're going to kind of flip flop that and just work through that throughout the year. Is
Hmm.
pretty much my philosophy, is using all the tools available and the ones that I find fit best for certain athletes, especially for young athletes. I think it's just about building a very wide base.
Yeah.
And then, like some of the pro guys that I work with, that's where we're going to get a little more intricate in what we're looking at. So like one of the guys I worked with, his ankle was bothering him last season for a good amount of the year, and we addressed that within his program this offseason. So we had ankle stuff in there daily just to try to build it up and get that tissue ready for the demands of pitching and be
Yeah.
good to go for spring training. So it definitely gets a little bit more intricate the more advanced an athlete gets once they have that training age and everything else. But in the beginning, I think it's just let's get them strong in as many ways as possible and like let's expose them to a lot of different things.
Yeah. No, I totally agree. I'm glad that's your answer. Like I said, I kind of knew where you were going to go with that, but I'm definitely on your side, especially from an engagement standpoint. And I was going to bring up something in this conversation. It's kind of of a good transition here, talking about creativity, and which I made a post about creativity yesterday, and it was kind of inspired by one of your exercises that I tried last week, which I did again yesterday as well, where I was more hinged forward and it was better. But yeah, and how this helps the engagement, at least for myself, and I think it's helping for most athletes in general, to have that element of changing the stimulus, using your creativity to do a new setup, switch the exercise slightly so that we're still able to track progress, but you're also, like you said, not feeling burnt out. You feel refreshed every time you come into the weight room. It's not like, oh shit, we're squatting again. We're barbell squatting. Or it's, oh, we're doing it a little different today. We're going to see something different. And just that small element is, when you do it day in and day out, is like life changing, because you're not dragging your feet into the workout and kind of, like I mentioned yesterday, walking backwards into it, like, oh yeah, I'm gonna do it, but like I don't really feel like it. A lot of times people talk about like discipline and stuff like that, where, oh, you have to do it every day and stuff, but yeah, like I'm on that side. Obviously, like I work out every single day, but it's like, why not, if you're going to do it every day, make it sustainable? And I was comparing it to like force feeding yourself the same food for every day for years, to like training the same exact setup every day for years. And to me, it's just not sustainable. And I was like, dude, I did it. Like I ate ground beef 2 years in a row, every single meal. And it worked for the beginning. Like, yeah. But then right now it's kind of like, I don't really want plain ground beef anymore. So, yeah. How do you think about that?
No, it definitely makes sense. And I think where what frustrates me most is like I'll see a lot of kids programs because like guys will come back from college, they'll have their sheet, they'll show me on their phone, and like there are some good stuff out there. Like I'm not saying all college S&C is bad,
Hmm.
but like a common thing that I'll see, and this goes back to the creativity point, is like within their program for 8 weeks straight, they're going to be doing box jumps and just box jumps. And it's like if you go on my page and you look at the story highlights, you hit jumps and plyos, you're going to see 100 plus different variations of jumps and
Yeah.
plyometrics, and it's just a lot of them don't even need equipment.
No,
So it's like
exactly.
I just think it's lazy to give that same approach. Plus, the first couple of weeks, yeah, the athletes might be into it. Like, let's see how high up on this box we can jump. But by week 6, 7, 8, like, tell me they're still interested. They're like, this is boring. We've been doing this for a month and a half now.
Yeah.
So like just
No.
changing up variation slightly there, and especially with plyos and jumps, I think it's super easy. But it's also pretty easy with main movements. Like tempo can change, bar type can change, accommodating resistance. There's all kinds of little variables that you can plug and play to get a different effect and keep the athlete interested while still working towards the same common goal.
Yeah. Totally agree. And how do you go about giving the athletes a little bit of responsibility, or I guess a little bit of freedom in terms of what they're doing? Obviously, you're talking about, not guys that have been there for a week, but like, you probably have some guys that have been around for a while, that they've built a good foundation, and they feel like they want to change it up maybe by themselves. They want to experiment things. I mean, maybe it hasn't occurred, but in the case that it has, how do you approach those situations with those athletes? What kind of conversations do you have with them? And do you let them do that? How does that go?
Yes, you're saying like if athletes want to adjust something on the day.
Yeah. Yeah. Like
So
a
that's
guy,
that's
like,
something that I've definitely over the last like 6 months, I would say I've definitely changed my stance on because before I was like it's programmed for a reason, like do the program.
yeah.
But now within reason, like if it's every single week, then they're avoiding the same movement. I'm gonna be like, okay, man, listen, we need to get this in because like there's a reason it's programmed.
Yeah.
But I'll make little switches, like say, especially now that we're getting to the time where guys are ramped up, throwing hard.
Yeah.
like bench pressing. Like say a guy's bench pressing with a bar one day and he just like just doesn't feel good. Can I try like the multi grip bar? Can I try dumbbells? Any other like variable there? Like I'm all for making changes to that whenever it comes to things like that.
Hmm.
Um, yeah, I would say it's mainly with athletes though that have been with me for a year plus. Like
Yeah,
I know who they
exactly.
are. I know that they're in here consistently. They're not just like showing up to do whatever they want to do.
Exactly.
But I think it's good to listen to the athletes and let them know that they have some say, but also just to have them buy into what you're doing as well. So it's kind of like a balance there of, hey,
Yep.
we can adjust things, but there's a reason I program all the things that I do for you,
Hmm.
and we're going to try our best to get as much of those in as we can.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, that makes sense. I mean, it's been kind of a topic lately that a bunch of my athletes are like, yeah, I don't want to do this. I don't want to. So I'm like, well, you can have a conversation, with the strength coach, um, and he can probably adjust it. But again, he's not going to be very open to it if you show up twice a week and if you're weak as hell. But like, if you have some type of a foundation and a general understanding of those patterns that you have to train, I don't see why, in my opinion, there wouldn't be at least an openness to like, yeah, let's see what we can do here. Let's accommodate you. Again, coming back to that engagement, and like he's probably going to get a lot more, a lot more in from like a engagement, and just he's going to get more from that workout if he wants to do it. Uh, then he doesn't want to do it. It feels like it hurts him or whatever.
Yeah, and I mean, at the end of the day, like I always go back to like a stimulus is a stimulus. Like it doesn't have to be the perfect one that you drew up like in your program. Like
Yeah.
yes, it's great to think ahead and kind of like have an idea of where you're going with things.
Hmm.
But as long as you're consistently getting a solid stimulus in for the patterns you're trying to work, like it's going to be productive, you know?
Yeah.
Like the biggest thing is just showing up week in, week out. Like if you do that for a long period of time, it's kind of hard to not see a result as long as you're pushing within limits and know what you're doing training wise. Like that's the biggest thing I try to tell all the kids is it takes years because you get 14, 15-year olds that are kind of starting to get like a little bit strong, but they're nothing crazy yet. And they like look at coaches and they're looking at me and they're like, I want to do what you do. And it's like, I'm 25, man. Like you got 10 years of training. And then I guarantee you, if you do it right, like you'll be
Yeah. You'll get
right where
there.
I'm at. Like you will
Yeah.
get there. It's not impossible. Like I
Yeah.
never thought I would be where I'm at today. Whenever I was your age, like I was weaker than most of these kids that I train now. Whenever I was
Yeah.
their age, and like now they look at me as like, oh, you're way stronger. It's like, well, train for 10, 15 years. It's going to happen.
Yeah. Just show up every day, man. Like again, and that's what's good about it. And I think that's some of the beauty of it is we've all been through those phases where we experiment different things. Like you said, you did the West Side barbell thing. You went all in that. You realized it wasn't that great. You said in high school you got hurt. You did stuff that wasn't optimal. Obviously, it's never going to be 100% optimal, but it wasn't the
Oh,
greatest.
that program was. Did you ever see that post I made? I don't know if you were following me yet. I
I
made
don't think
that
so.
like a long time ago. But I made a post of the leg day that the summer coach sent me that I was running, and I actually had a stress fracture in my back from that
Oh
off
my
season.
god.
But the
Yeah.
leg day, it was 3 by 10 in the first four movements. It was back squat, front squat, sumo squat, and then hack squat. And it was like 14 exercises, all 3 by 10, 3 by 12, just everything you could think of for the lower body. It was awful. And I had nobody
This
there
is
watching
this
me.
is
So,
great.
like, I was
Four
doing, what was
different
that, 12
squats to try to
sets,
begin with.
12 working sets of squats at 10 reps of different
That is
squat variations. I was at the squat rack for like an hour every day. It was awful.
Dude, that is a
So,
hundred and
that kind
twenty
of,
reps of 120
yeah,
squats.
it
That's
influenced me
brutal.
a little bit to get into what I'm doing now because I just don't want. I mean, I'm sure it's going to happen out there. I can't prevent everyone from going
Yeah,
through that,
from
but I just
fucking
think
up.
bad training is very unfortunate and it's easy to
Yeah,
avoid. So it's
yeah,
kind of like I got into it as I don't want anyone else to experience that, and if I can help
yeah,
people along the way, that's a win-win.
yeah, for sure. But again, there's still some value to you running that program and being like, damn, that is brutal. Like, that can't be a thing. And if you don't do that, maybe you don't get into that field and maybe you don't realize how stupid that was. Um, which at the end of the day, like some of these athletes are kind of going through that phase as well, where they feel like they need to explore a little bit and like, oh, coach, like, how does that happen? Well, it's like, yeah, you try a bunch of different things and then you realize you know absolutely nothing. And then you kind of figure out a little path that kind of works, and you ride with that for a while until you learn something better, and you keep getting better as you keep doing it as well, which is the beauty of it. Again, like you said, you're 25 and you're getting stronger and you've been through a lot, but like you're going to keep making mistakes and learning and growing and becoming better and better as you keep doing more things, and as you keep, experimenting within the things that you're doing now. So I think it's very cool, and I think it's a very cool part of our jobs. I know I don't do as many strength programs as you do, but coaching in general, I would
Yeah,
say.
and one of the biggest things I think is like I don't think I mentioned it, but I trained at Driveline in 2019. I did stuff with them for probably 5 months after that, like remote. I did Dr. Heenan's lifts in the summer of 2020, I believe, for a little short period of time. Who else? I feel like there was one other. Like I went around and got different ideas from different people to see how they did it,
Yeah,
and that's what kind of really led me to like, okay, I'm going to do this myself because there's good in everything. Like every program had parts in it that it's like, okay, this is solid,
yeah,
but just some programs were missing things that I felt like I really needed. Like an example was the Heenan program I was on. Zero jumps, zero plyos. I'm a college athlete, and at that time, like, not that I was crazy strong, but I was a 500-pound deadlift guy. I was a like probably 315 squat guy, so like decent weight room numbers. I definitely needed to be jumping and doing plyos, and there was none of that in the program. It was just lunge, 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 split stance, this, and like that can be good. And I think for a high school population that is not strong in that position, it's great to almost like overdo it and make them go in that position a lot. But for a guy like me, I was 22 at the time or 21 at the time, like I don't know.
yeah,
I didn't think it was enough. But like I got ideas from that program and different exercises that I liked. Same with
yeah.
the drive line. Like you just pick little bits and pieces along the way, and then you learn how to put it together for like your own product. Because everybody has their own spin on things. Nobody's going to be writing things exactly the same as someone else.
Yeah, definitely. But I like that approach, and that's the same exact way I've been going at it. Is just like you said, everybody has some good ideas. It's all about how you put it together, and some of the biases that some people have because of their experience and because of their results that they got. But then that doesn't make sense to you. It's like, bro, why do we do this? So it's great to just kind of remodel it with your flavor in it, but still using some of the stuff they do. Um, let's talk a little bit about uh, you know what in terms of injury prevention. So I'd never really talk about injury prevention because in my mind, training is training, and like that's how you prepare uh, for injuries. But I wanted to see what your stance on it was. So, what's your philosophy around injury prevention? Do you talk about it? Do you do certain things to prevent injuries? Uh, yeah, I don't know. How do you feel about
Um,
that?
I'd say I'd like to word it differently than just prevent injuries because you know how
Okay.
complex injuries can be.
Yeah.
But I definitely do things with injuries in mind of trying to prevent them. So I guess I'm kind of a hypocrite because I am doing things to prevent injury, but I don't like saying prevent injury
Yeah.
because
No, me either.
I
Absolutely
don't
hate that
know
term.
how
I
well
don't
we
think
can
I've ever
actually
said it
do that.
on a
But like an
podcast.
example of some things that I like to train and I think some people will miss out on is like in baseball, oblique strains are very common.
Okay.
So like training the obliques through a full range of motion, like the side plank where you have your feet or elbow elevated and you're going through a full range of motion, like dipping the hips, getting to some extreme positions.
Yeah.
I think that makes sense because like if you look at whenever you're throwing, hitting, whatever it is, like that spine gets twisted, you're going to be in all these weird positions. So why not build strength and capacity in those ranges so that whenever you get to it at high velocity, in theory, you're more prepared. So like that's one example. And then obviously I do a lot of work with like the shoulder, like different rotator cuff exercises. We're doing range of motion. Something in the last like 6 months to a year that I've been working on a lot more with guys is getting strong and kind of ranges of motion that I wouldn't have explored as much before. So like an
Hmm.
example would be, like whenever you take a bar and you go behind your back and you like do like
Yeah.
a wrist curl, so you dislocate it. I don't have a lot of guys doing that with a barbell necessarily, but I like it with a band and just a metal rod. So you have band tension pulling straight down, come down,
Hmm.
dislocate, flip back up. So just getting that shoulder exposed to some really deep ER there and just building capacity in some of those weirder movements. Because as long as it feels fine and it doesn't cause them pain while they're doing it or after, I think we're making gains by building capacity in those ranges. Because baseball
Yeah.
puts your body in some of the most extreme ranges possible. So I think you need to prepare with that in mind, as long as the athlete responds well to it and they're not in pain from doing anything like that.
Yeah, for sure. And I think also some of the benefits from these is purely mental, or just kind of teaching the brain that we can go there without pain, and doing it in a controlled environment where it's not super fast, and it's not like, oh my God, I'm throwing or falling and then I'm getting in that range and then boom, my body tenses up. It's more like I'm going to control and slowly see, oh, okay, I can go there. And that's one of the benefits that I found from like impulses, and uh, that like, I got that from Dak because I trained with him, but beforehand. But I mean, it was one of those things where like you wouldn't think it feels good to be in extreme ER pulling against a band, but when you teach your brain that like, hey, I can relax here, I can be fine. I just have to accept that I can get there, and you do it in a controlled environment or very very high volume or an ISO for a very long time. It becomes kind of like, okay, I'm good.
I
Way
think with
better.
that stuff, it like helps with inhibition a lot, because
Yeah.
all we're trying to do in training and anything in sport is limit inhibition enough to allow us to have the highest output. But inhibition is also a good thing, because inhibition is what helps keep us from pushing beyond the limit that our body can physiologically handle.
Yeah.
So it's like we want as little inhibition as possible, but we need to be careful with how much we're taking away. But I think the impulses and the ISOs, just like you're saying, mentally can help you get around that inhibition, because it's like, okay, this position doesn't feel good. If you impulse into that position 100 times, even if it's low effort, like after, it's probably not going to feel as, oh, this doesn't feel good, because you've done it 100 times. You've kind
Yeah.
of like greased the joint in a way from doing
Yeah.
that. That's how I view them, at least.
Yeah, no, it's that's there's many ways that they help me, or that people will interpret them in different ways, but that's definitely one of the benefits I would say too. It's just kind of understanding, okay, this is how much I can push here, and also if I just get used to doing it for a very high volume and I just spend time in that position, it just kind of becomes, oh well, I'm fine. And I feel like that translated to like when I started doing jujitsu and I would get armbar and I would just be like, oh, I'm chilling here. Like I've been there, and I could
Yeah, you've been
literally see it in
exposed.
my head. Like, yeah, I've done that like exercise where I was just like, looks like my arm's gonna explode. But now that guy's pulling on my arm, and like I just kind of scoop my scap in a way that like I know I'm fine here, which is kind of crazy. But yeah, you guys ever get into jujitsu?
One of my
You'll
good
be
buddies
exposed to that
just
as
got
well.
into it like a year or two ago,
Yeah,
and
it's awesome.
he loves it.
Yeah, I got to get back into it. I mean, I'm since I moved to Philly, I haven't done any. I reached out to a couple gyms, but I'm just trying to find when I'll fit that in my schedule. It would probably have to be pretty early in the morning, but we'll see. We'll save that conversation for later. Um, what's the most meaningful to you in your job?
um, I would say it's beyond like obviously getting guys stronger and faster. That's all cool, and like I love that.
Yeah.
But I would say it's more of the relationships and like helping guys gain confidence. Because as you know, through training and getting stronger, faster, bigger, whatever it is,
Hmm.
not only does it help you in the physical realm, but it helps you with that confidence. Because before, where if you're like, I don't know if you were like me whenever you were younger, but if you're very weak and you feel like you're behind, you
Yeah.
kind of lack that confidence, and you're always trying to play catch up, right?
Yeah.
So like as these guys get stronger, you can kind of see their confidence start to go up a little bit. You can see them whenever they're doing their actual skill, whether it's throwing, hitting, running, like they're able to use their body a little bit better, and like they can feel it. I would say that's probably the most like meaningful part of my job, is just helping people discover like, hey, I'm way more capable of whatever it is I can do. It's the limit, I think, is only set by whatever you think it is.
Hmm.
I really don't think there is a limit on performance. I think it's just people set a limit on themselves, or they think that they're at their peak, whenever there's always a way to squeeze out just a little bit more. And I think
Yeah.
going through that process is definitely meaningful to me.
Totally agree. And I would like to mention, I think that also the main tissue that handles, force and energy and stuff like is muscle. So if you build a lot of muscle, I just personally think that you're more suited or more fitted to handle a lot of stress and force and energy, whatever in whatever form that comes. So that could be, just stress from life. That could be, stress from training, stress from anything. I think the stronger you are in general, that will transpose, or at least that will impact all areas of life. So that's the way I see it. But I think that, that's why I think guys build a lot of confidence when they become stronger, because yeah, they stop playing catch up, but also they feel more capable to handle different things. And I think that's a part that like people don't really talk about. Like, yeah, you're going to be better at your sport or whatever. You're going to be better at this exercise, but you're also going to be more able to handle things in the grand scheme of things, which is probably the most important thing uh,
Yeah,
that you're
just
going to accomplish.
preparation
Yeah,
for
prepare for anything.
anything.
Yeah,
Like you're ready to do anything at any time, and that's what Dak always talks about. And I think a lot of people don't understand what that truly means
no,
because they don't comprehend. They don't think it's possible. That
yeah,
I'm not saying I'm anywhere near Dak's level, but I kind of get what he means. Like I train athletes all day long. I'm on the floor. If a guy's gripping a jump on the mat, like I can just hop in and hit 80,
yeah,
90% of my max within a jump or two.
anytime. Yeah,
So like that's being prepared. I feel like no matter whether I'm sore, whether I'm feeling great, like it's just being ready to hop in and do things like that, or like your demo and deadlifts, like being able to pick up. For me, it's like I can pick up 500 pounds cold. Like that's probably my hardest or highest lift that I can do cold. But like I'm just prepared for that. Like I'm not saying it's a good idea to go do that, but if I can go and do that any day, like that's not a bad thing. I feel like that
no,
shows that what I'm doing is working for what we're trying to get at.
definitely. And I think when you stop like caring so much about what you're doing and you just kind of do it, that's when you start like that's where when the real superpowers like tap in. It's like, holy shit, I can do that every day. Like I play catch 7 times a day now, and before I'd play catch once and my arm would be hanging, and now I'm just kind of like, hey, I can do it. Like I don't care, and it's not like I'm throwing 100% every time, but I'm throwing it, and then it's just like, yeah, you train it long enough, it becomes just kind of you can handle it. So that's where
Exactly.
like the limit is just like, oh, I thought like throwing 1 time a day, 37 pitches or throws was like the max, and now I can do that 7 times. So I'm like, oh, well, what's the limit now? And I've only been doing it for like 6 months. So crazy to think like, hey, if I did that for like 10 years, bro, I could probably throw 20 times a day. Like this is wild. And it
Well,
sounds
yeah. I don't
crazy
know
to
if you've
say.
ever.
Let's take it on to another topic. What are some other things that you do when you're not lifting weights, and why?
I'm a pretty avid fisherman. I haven't been able to
Okay.
go as much in the past like year as much as I did in the past, but definitely this year I want to get out more. So that was something in high school I was really into. Like at 16, I had my own boat, so
Really?
I'm really really into fishing, and I have a lot of gear for it. It's just
Nice.
finding time to get back out there and kind of figuring out spots up here because I'm in a new area. Because I'm from north
Yeah.
of Pittsburgh originally, so
Okay.
I kind of know the area now. It's just finding out like
Yeah,
where
the
I can go and
spots.
what I'm trying to do. But I would say fishing. I really like hiking. Just getting outside and kind of away from everything. I feel like
Yeah.
it's something that's undervalued these days because we're so
Yeah.
constantly overfed information all day long that we never get that time to just like
Yeah.
look up at the sky and be like, wow, like, look at that cloud. Something simple, you know?
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
feel like we
Definitely.
take that for granted. We don't I feel like we're never bored anymore as a society. So like I enjoy going out. Not that I'm bored hiking, but like going out and just walking a trail to walk a trail. And it's like we're gonna
Yeah.
get to the end, and we're gonna walk back. Nothing, no like crazy TikTok going on or anything. It's just
Yeah. Yeah.
me
Just
and
kind of
nature.
peace.
Like I enjoy doing that. How about you?
I like that. I mean, yeah, especially just from being inside all day. Like I feel like I'm all day, like inside all day from like 12 hours a day, and I just kind of never see the sunlight. We don't have windows at my facility, so it's just kind of like, dang,
Just
I miss
artificial
that.
light.
Yeah, I miss that a lot. And yeah, I mean, I do a lot of music and stuff like that, but again, I don't have time to do that. This week I started doing Sudokus, dude, fire. Like, I don't scroll on my phone anymore. It's just kind of like, okay, I got 10 minutes. Let me try to finish that grid. And then,
Yeah.
dude, I didn't know how to do them. Took me like a day or two to figure it out. And now I'm like 5 days in, but so far it's been very, very cool. Like it's challenging, and it's, I haven't felt that focused about like on one little thing, like clearing my mind like that in a while. Um, meditating and stuff like that, I guess it takes a little longer to get into that state of like where you feel very at peace. But when doing that, it's pretty sick. So yeah, besides from music and other sports, jujitsu and things like that, but that's stuff that I have done in the past. I still do a little bit of music here and there. I want to get back into it, but really don't have the time for it. So Sudokus have been my escape, and then yeah, writing, reading, Sudokus, getting outside, and just kind of yeah, me too. Just kind of enjoying the outdoors, going around with my girlfriend, things like that. Just little things that we don't get to do enough.
Yeah, you got to get away from it, is what I always say. Like, always tell people I'll talk training all day long with you, like when I'm at work, blah, blah, blah. And like, this is obviously an exception because we're doing a podcast where we talk
Yeah,
about training. So I'm going to talk about it.
yeah,
But like, whenever I'm outside of it, like, say I'm hanging with my friends from college, high school, whatever it is, I do not want to talk training. Like, if they
no, me
ask me
either.
stuff, I will answer, but I'm not going to bring it up and be like, this is the new blah, blah, blah that I've been doing
Yeah,
because my entire life is that right now. So I think it's good to have things outside of training that still pique your interest and kind of get you away from it. I
yeah,
think that also helps prevent the burnout that a lot of coaches get within whatever field it is. Like, it could be strength conditioning, it could be sport coach, like
yeah,
anything. I feel like it's easy to get burnt out if you don't have a
yeah. Because
balance of like doing that and other hobbies.
yeah, you're just so into it all the time, and then it gets easy because like you spend such the majority of your time there that like I mean, at least for me, like I have so very little time outside the facility. It'd be easy to just kind of never check out. So we have to remind myself. Lately, I've been cooking too. I did a fast, 72-hour fast, like 2, 3, 4 weeks ago. Yeah, beginning of
Yeah, I
January,
saw
so
that.
3 weeks
I want
ago.
to try that sometime. Big time.
Yeah, very very interesting experience. It was hard. It was very hard the second day. Like I was about to pass out, but then the third day became very easy. So I think my body got like kind of adjusted to it,
Yeah, you
understood
probably
what
got
kind
into
of
ketosis.
yeah, yeah. So I turned in ketosis, and then body understood like, okay, we can use fat here. We don't need uh, sugar uh, for energy, and it was like very very interesting. Like I said, I was eating ground beef every day, ground beef and microwave potatoes every day for the last 2 years before that, and then when I finished that experience, since then, like I don't really feel like eating steak. Like steak was like my life, and it's like I'm not saying I'm never gonna eat steak again, but I've had beef and stuff here and there, but I'm a lot more balanced. I want flavor in my food. I sit down and enjoy it. I cook like good meals. Like I add a bunch of different colors in them, and it's really something that's occurred naturally. Like I don't force myself. Eating used to be like a waste of time, and now it's more like a time to enjoy. So I really have enjoyed that too. Like I come home and usually my girlfriend will make some food or something when I get here because I get here kind of late. But in the morning, I'll take time and make myself breakfast, and I'll make it good, like, and then I'll eat it and I'll appreciate it. So yeah, this all came from that experience, which is very interesting, and something that I really really appreciate now that I
Yeah,
didn't
no,
before.
that definitely makes sense. I've been wanting to try the fast. I've started talking about it with one of the owners at BioSport because he's interested in trying it too.
Yeah,
I think it's just a matter of like saying, okay, I'm doing it, and
yeah, you
then
just have to
sticking to
send it.
the protocol. Did you do strictly water, or did you have any black coffee, bone
Yeah,
broth, anything like that?
so I did water with salt in it. I allowed myself to have black coffee and tea, green tea. I had like two green teas. The first time it was all right. Second time it was like it just tasted disgusting. Like I just couldn't have it. So I had like one and a half green tea, and I was kind of scared of coffee because I know it would make me anxious and then hungry. So I had a coffee probably in the late of my second day, and I had one in the middle of my third day when I knew I was gonna like I was ending. I was like 4 hours left, and I was like, all right, like I'm just a little tired. Let me get coffee here. Like I don't really care. And at that point, I felt kind of good. So that's all I had. Besides that, I only had water. The salt really kind of fueled me. Like I would get home and I would like literally like put salt in my water and like lick it and be like, oh my god, it tastes so good.
Was that a specific kind of salt? Like I use Redmond's real salt most
Okay.
of the time in my water.
Okay. No, it was pink Himalayan salt that I had.
Pink man. Gotcha. I have that too.
But I mean, it could be, Celtic sea salt. I think would be good too.
Yeah, just something to help get those electrolytes back in.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. You just need some type of electrolyte, and it also felt like the water, which I mean, you do it every day, but I've been kind of inconsistent with putting salt in my water. But that, I could really notice, like, it felt like I was drinking nothing if the water didn't have salt in it. Like I could really taste it. It's really crazy. Like your senses become very like different. You get into that state of like pure survival. That like midway through that second day where I was getting tired, it was insane how survival oriented I was. It was like anything that didn't have something to do with me like survive, I did not have any interest in doing. So getting mad, you'd think like you get irritated and stuff when you're hungry. Like absolutely not. Like I was like so stoic. Like people would talk to me and I would just kind of be like, nope, I don't care. Like it
I
was
wonder if
just
that's like your body doesn't want to waste the energy on
no,
being
it
mad.
was, it was.
It's like you're trying to survive and you don't have any energy coming in, so you're converting what you already have stored.
Yeah,
So
it
it's like
was
I don't want to
exactly
waste
that.
that on being angry.
Yeah, it was exactly that. Like I could feel how expensive it would be in terms of energy for my body to just be mad. It was just like, no. I was even driving and then people would cut me off and I would feel myself kind of want to just be pissed off and then my brain would just go, nope, we're not doing that. Like it's
That's
too
cool.
hard.
Yeah, I need to just man up and do it.
Yeah, yeah. Literally, it was one of those days where like I think it was a Sunday and I was like, all right, we're starting tomorrow. And then yeah, I just did. And then I
How much
started so
weight did you lose?
I dropped like 8 pounds. It was really nothing crazy because I drank a lot of water. So like, yeah, maybe 7 or 8 pounds. I think I was like 210, and I was like 202.2 when I finished, or
Gotcha.
202.4 by the end of the third day. So really nothing crazy. Gained it back right away. Um,
And what'd you break the fast with?
I had a steak again. Like it was my, steak was like my thing before. Like, I mean, not that it's not my thing anymore, but I was like, I want a steak. They recommend like lean protein, and I would definitely recommend it too. Like it was hard because it was so fat. It was hard to digest. So I had a whole steak. Would recommend uh, leaner protein for sure, um, rather than a steak. It was just hard to digest, and yeah, that's when I kind of realized, like, oh my god, like maybe I've been feeding my body something it really doesn't want for a while, and so now I just kind of go with what I feel like eating, and I've been feeling so much better, so much happier, and like yeah, I might not get all the macros that I get from steak, but because I was just kind of force feeding it, I feel like I really wasn't getting what it had uh, to give me anyways.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah, so it's definitely interesting, and I would definitely recommend. So you're gonna have to do it. Let me know how it
Yeah,
goes.
I need to do it. I'll probably go like sub 200 for that. It'll be
Yeah,
crazy. I haven't been below
I
200
thought
pounds in
too.
a while.
I thought so too. I was like, oh my god, I'm gonna be 195. That's gonna be crazy. It's been like years, and I didn't. So we'll see. Maybe.
Yeah, I need to do it. Did you train while you were fasted or no?
Yeah. So the Monday. So basically, I started on a Sunday night. So Sunday night I had my last meal, and then I ate. I broke my fast on Wednesday night. So Sunday night went to bed. So Monday morning is kind of normal. I just get breakfast. So I went to work early. I worked out, and then I threw, and then I felt fine until like midday, where I was like, okay, man, I'm hungry right now. Then the Tuesday, like I mentioned, I felt really bad. I did like 2 sets of RDLs. Uh, I went upstairs in the weight room. I was like, all right, let me do something, and I was like, oh no, that doesn't feel good. So I didn't. I threw every day though, because I mean that's my job. Like, and I did kind of throw like hard, like relatively, it was in kind of intentful catch play. But yeah, and then the last day I worked out a little more and threw again, but it was pretty light. Um, and I wouldn't recommend like going crazy. Like if you're trying to hit PRs, probably not the best week to do it.
Yeah, not
On the
that fast.
Thursday right after I went and like hit legs pretty hard. Like I still kind of felt a little weak, and I was like, whatever. And I tried to hit 4 plates on squat, and I hit 365 for three, I think, and that was it. I was like, okay, I'm done. But it was still
And
good.
after a 3-day fast,
Yeah, yeah,
that's
it was still good. I was
that's
like, yeah,
pathetic.
that was a good day. Yeah.
Yeah, that's a solid day. I'd take
Yeah.
that after not eating food for 3 days.
Yeah, yeah, no, I was kind of happy with that. And yeah, after that, like it took me like a day, like that day of transition. It's like that Thursday felt still a little weak, but normal. And then that Friday, I was fine. So yeah, if you have like a week where you have important stuff, I wouldn't recommend because like it definitely alters your state. Definitely is not going to make you like perform as usual. I couldn't focus on it, which is something that I thought was really good. I couldn't focus on two things at the same time. My brain is always like always everywhere. Uh, kind of ADHD ish. Like, dude, I can't focus on one thing. I'm always kind of thinking of a million things. I couldn't. Like somebody, how it goes. Like kids come talk, ask you questions, and athletes, and here you have to do this and give this guy a program. And it was very slow. It was like, wait, program this. And it was very like slow everything down, which was great because I was like, I didn't know that I could be like that. Um, and it was interesting to experiment that. Like, definitely didn't feel anxious at all. It was more so like, okay, let's focus on what matters here. Let's focus on not dying. So let's keep our energy kind of, for ourselves. And yeah, it's a really interesting experience.
Yeah, it sounds like it'd be something worth trying out. I feel like
Yeah,
everyone needs to get to that state at some point, feel what
yeah,
that's like.
yeah, definitely. It's just I'm so open minded with all these things. I feel like I tried everything, uh, like cold tubs and ice baths and cold showers and earthing and barefoot shoes and I mean mouth tape and all that. Like I've done it all, but I've gotten stuff that I like, stuff that I don't like, and that's one of those where I was like, let me try it out.
Yeah, you don't know until you know.
Exactly. That was just one of those things. Everybody was like, "Why are you doing that?" I was like, "I don't know." Like everybody does it, and they're like, "It does this, it does that." I'm like, "Well, I'll try it and see what happens."
Yeah, it's
So
like,
now
why
I know.
not?
Yeah. So now I know. Yeah, man. Do you have any projects that you have in mind before we wrap this up? Things that you're looking forward to this year or in the upcoming years?
I would say we are getting a little bit of an expansion happening. So the
Okay.
building that's right next to us, it's connected, like there's a wall between.
Nice.
We're going to get half of that. So we're adding like roughly 5,000 square foot, which will be nice. So we'll have more cages there, which will be good for the athletes because there'll be more open cages for members throughout the day. And then we'll be able to add some machines and stuff to the weight room on that side of it. So
Nice.
I know we already got like a leg press hack squat combo in that
Oh,
just needs
nice.
built. We recently got a flywheel that goes on the wall, the eccentric one.
Okay.
Just have to get it mounted to the wall. But once that's up, I'm excited to use that.
Nice.
But I would say just continuing to like just grow as a business because this past summer and winter was really crazy. We had a lot of athletes. It's just going to continue to get like that more and more because guys I
Yeah.
work with that are seniors in high school, they go off to college. Now they're coming back.
Yeah.
New guys in high school, like it just keeps going. So
Yeah. Keeps going.
hoping to get that to continue growing to the point where hopefully I need another coach to help out with programming. That would be ideal. Like get two
Yes,
of
sir.
us going around and hear a little bit less Adam, Adam, Adam every day. You can hear another
Yeah.
name
Yeah.
come
Yeah.
out too, which would be cool. But
Yeah.
yeah,
Nice. Well, cool, man. I mean, I'm definitely gonna have to come out. Trying to set that up this year where I'm gonna go visit a bunch of facilities. You probably know Full Reps near because you're from that area, I think. Full Reps Training
it's
Center.
in PA,
Yeah,
right?
yeah. It's near Pittsburgh, I think. They've been coming to our place a little bit recently for our pro day and stuff, and definitely want to go there. I'll try to check BioSport as well.
Oh yeah,
Yes,
definitely would
sir.
love to have
So
you up.
I'll let you know. Yeah, man. Thanks so much for taking the time to be here this morning. Say hi to your dog too. That's trying to be a part of this in the background.
Oh yeah,
Um, yeah, man. Thank you very much, and we'll talk again soon.
yeah, for sure, man. Thanks for having me on.
Yes, sir. See you, brother.
I'll see ya.